In 2014, a series of mysterious and deeply unsettling events began to unfold in a quiet corner of New England. What started as the strange discovery of desecrated graves soon spiraled into one of the most bizarre and horrifying cases the town had ever seen. At the center of it all was a man named Adrian Groves, a reclusive writer who would later become known as the Collector. Adrian Groves was born on September 1st, 1972, to parents Henry and Evelyn Groves. From an early age, it was clear that Adrian was different. While he was highly intelligent, his social skills were lacking. Other children often found him strange, and his withdrawn nature made him a target for bullying. He frequently returned home with bruises and black eyes, though his parents seemed to brush it off, believing it was just part of growing up. Adrian found solace in books. He devoured them, using his small allowance to build a personal library and even teaching himself multiple languages. But no amount of reading could prepare him for what he experienced at the age of 13, a traumatic event that would haunt him for the rest of his life. One afternoon, Adrian was on his way home from school when he found himself lost in a part of town he didn't recognize. As he wandered, he stumbled upon a strange scene. In the backyard of an old house, a group of men dressed in black suits and cloaks stood around a small coffin. It was a funeral, but not just any funeral. It was for a child. Adrian froze in place, but before he could turn to leave, one of the men grabbed him, dragging him toward the coffin. The group forced him to participate in a bizarre ritual, ordering him to kiss the cold, lifeless body of an 11-year-old girl named Natalie. Terrified and powerless, Adrian did as they demanded. Afterward, the girl's mother gave Adrian a ring and declared him engaged to her daughter. For 40 days, Adrian was warned not to speak of what had happened. Traumatized and confused, he kept the secret to himself. But the experience left deep psychological scars. In the months that followed, Adrian began having nightmares where Natalie appeared to him, urging him to practice dark magic. Though he tried to resist, the dreams persisted, driving him deeper into obsession with death and the supernatural. Adrian's parents, concerned by his strange behavior, took him to a psychologist. The doctor prescribed him medication, but the nightmares continued. It wasn't until Natalie appeared to him in another dream, instructing him to perform a ritual, that the nightmares finally stopped. The ritual involved taking a tooth from a classmate, something Adrian reluctantly did. From that day forward, the dreams ceased, but Adrian's fascination with death only grew. Years passed, and Adrian's interest in the occult deepened. He enrolled at a university where he studied philology, the study of language in historical texts. It was here that Adrian found others who shared his morbid curiosity, and he joined a group devoted to exploring ancient death rituals. As his involvement grew, Adrian took a vow of celibacy as part of his commitment to his studies and the dark arts. After graduating with honors, Adrian remained at the university as a lecturer. His colleagues found him difficult to work with, describing him as eccentric and reclusive. Eventually, he left academia and turned his attention to his true passion, writing. He began a project documenting forgotten local histories, focusing specifically on graveyards and burial practices. Adrian was especially drawn to the graves of children, believing they held untapped secrets of life after death. Between 2010 and 2014, Adrian visited over 700 graves, meticulously cataloging his findings. But his research didn't stop there. He began spending nights in cemeteries, lying atop the graves of young girls, convinced that their spirits would communicate with him. On several occasions, he was found by groundskeepers asleep in open graves. His obsession with the dead had reached disturbing new heights. It was during one of these nocturnal visits that Adrian made a decision that would change his life and the lives of many others forever. He dug up the body of a recently buried girl, believing he could bring her back to life through dark magic. He took the body home, where he used primitive preservation techniques to mummify it, stuffing the hollowed-out corpse with fabric and covering it in a mixture of salt and chemicals. What started with one body soon became an entire collection. Over the next few years, Adrian exhumed the bodies of several young girls, bringing them back to his home, where he transformed them into grotesque dolls. He dressed them in clothes he found in thrift stores, or sometimes left them in the outfits they were buried in. He even inserted music boxes into their bodies, so they would make noise when moved. Adrian's mother, who lived with him, noticed the growing number of dolls in his room, but thought nothing of it. She dismissed the foul smell permeating the house as a problem with the plumbing. All the while, Adrian continued to add to his collection, celebrating the birthdays of the girls by baking cakes and holding small parties in their honor. In 2014, authorities began receiving reports of desecrated graves. Families were horrified to discover that the bodies of their loved ones had been stolen. As the investigation deepened, Adrian's strange behavior caught the attention of the police. He was already on their radar due to his controversial writings on Nazi symbolism and his involvement in extremist groups. But no one could have predicted the horrors that awaited them when they finally searched his home. Upon entering the house, police were overwhelmed by the smell of decay. In Adrian's room, they found what at first appeared to be a collection of large dolls, but upon closer inspection, they realized the truth. These were the mummified bodies of young girls, some of whom had been missing for years. Adrian was arrested and charged with multiple counts of grave desecration. During his interrogation, he calmly explained that he believed he was giving these children a second chance at life. He denied any sexual motivation, insisting that his actions were purely out of a desire to preserve their innocence. A psychological evaluation revealed that Adrian suffered from severe schizophrenia. He was declared unfit to stand trial and was committed to a psychiatric institution, where he remains to this day. Some human rights activists have since raised concerns about his treatment, claiming that Adrian has been subjected to abuse while in custody. However, for the families of the girls whose bodies were taken, Adrian is nothing more than a monster. Even now, years later, Adrian's case remains one of the most disturbing in the history of the region. Was he simply a disturbed man, driven by mental illness, or was there something more sinister at play? Whatever the answer, the story of Adrian Groves will haunt the town for generations to come.